So it's finally here, the big night, the launch night. Took a while, didn't it, Shivani?
You call it a while? I mean, so many hundreds of coffee-fueled nights, and then I've already lost count, thousands of text messages, and one too many script edits, and you call that a while, Devendra?
Of course, patience has been our unofficial production partner.
Well, I can't tell about the journey or the waitings actually, but the journey, of course, has been worth it.
So before another task, a final rehearsal comes in, shall we do it?
Let's go!
Hello there, welcome to this special dialogue episode on a special day for all of us here at Nepal Television. New venture of Nepal Television, the global voice, NTV World, is beaming live to you. On this special occasion, it demands a special dialogue. To celebrate this occasion, we have a special panel in our studios of NTV World in Kathmandu.
And yes, if we have this, take this privilege of introducing our guests, Devendra. In this show, the special dialogue, we have with us Mr. Mani Rana, BBC Nepali service, a legendary figure in Nepal's broadcasting history. And next, of course, Professor Dr. Bipin Adhikari, a constitutional expert himself, also the former dean of the School of Law at the Kathmandu University.
A very well-known female voice, Mrs. Ritu Singh Vaidya. She's the managing director of Vaidya Organization of Industries and Trading Houses. And also, we have with us an economist, a well-known economist, researcher, Professor Dr. Arjun Kumar Baral, who is the executive director of SEDA.
Yeah, what we're doing today, or making an effort to, or an attempt to, in fact, is to explore the dynamics around us and see through the experts' lenses and their expert analysis the positioning of Nepal and what could be the road ahead. And since we are certainly talking about dynamics and change, we will certainly not do justice, Devendra, without incorporating the voices of the new generation. In fact, the energy of new generation, which would be incorporated in short video excerpts, which we have extracted from the interviews that we've had very recently at NTV World Studios. And among them are Miraj Dhungana, one among the pioneering of the Gen Z movement, the recent Gen Z movement, which has brought about a wave of change in the entire national landscape. And second is a practitioner who's already placed Nepal in the global market scene. That's none other than the founder as well as the CEO of Fuse Machines, Dr. Samir Maske.
The theme for the special dialogue is changing socio-political dynamics and need for a global voice. To begin with the discussion, we'd like to start with Dr. Adhikari. Dr. Adhikari, you see a wave of change has swept almost the Southeast Asia. How do you see this wave of change at this particular point of time?
The wave of change that we are going through is certainly a very notable exercise recently, basically for two things. Because this is the wave brought in the scenario by the youth of the country, and secondly, these are the people who never had any intervention in politics or in society in Nepal, in Nepal's history. This is the first time that they are really on the scene with very different perspective about politics, society, and also the change and transformation they have been thinking of.
Vis-a-vis this change, let's look at the larger picture, Dr. Adhikari, because it becomes so important for us as Nepalis, us as citizens of a small economy and a small country like Nepal, to understand the bigger picture as we deal and see and experience or live the changes that are undergoing around our close vicinity. From the new power alignment to the digital movements that are paving way for such sort of movements that we just saw around us, right? What is your observation? How do you see the changes influencing the very idea of democracy and governance?
First of all, what is most important is that there is a change in the government. So there is a point of view that the existing setup cannot probably handle many of the issues related with good governance, anti-corruption, as well as the context of rule of law and democracy in the country. And that led to the change in government, and that change was not strictly according to the parameters of the constitution, and that itself heralds a sort of change, because it gives the perspective to the political elite in the country that things could change in a different way if they don't really come up with certain commitment for transformation of the country. Similarly, the second context here is also about the poor socio-economic I think deteriorating situation, and that also has affected the millions in the country, despite that we have some sort of democracy here for the last 6-7 decades. And now that the youth movement, let's say Gen Z movement, the coin of the day, has really brought in certain perspective that the business as usual cannot go have any commitment at all. That will have to be rethought of, and then the new perspective has to be set up.
A sort of democracy. We'll probably talk a bit later in the second part of this. So my question to you is, was that change inevitable, or it was just an awakening of a generation?
I think that change was inevitable. We certainly didn't know how, what and when it will come. But then this time the youths, they intervened, and in a way that was not very well contemplated by the common people. But then everybody knew that we have a we don't have a democracy actually, because we have certain type of elections in the country. There is a change in government, but due to corruption and also the lack of governance standards, nobody really believed that the government represents the people, especially the most deprived and vulnerable people, and the youth have the biggest stake, because 40-45% of the national population, it belongs to the young people. So obviously they think that this country is not compatible with their future, and so this time what comes in is certainly remarkable, and the little intervention they had really triggered a wave of change, and that change could have enormous effect in the days to come.
One more question I'd like to just jump in. Dr. Adhikari, our constitutional vision, does it even anticipate global disruptions like this?
I think we are always, some way influenced by international events. So every change in the country in the past 7 decades were some way influenced by the change outside our political borders, be it the change in India or China or in Europe or in the rest of the world. So this time there is a sea change in the country, because most of the educated youths, they have many of them have international exposure also, and many of them are very competitive internationally. They are looking for their future in the country itself, and also want a change and accommodation in the system of government here, which has been very in a way giving a very lackluster performance. And so the influence from outside had decisive impact. It's all digital, because people now are more trained to read and understand international events in the context of their country, and many of them, the students, they have exposure, and fortunately, because most of the youths, they speak English, and that has given them a sort of exposure that was not possible some decades before. So certainly the international influence is there, but it's not in any sense. It's not the political influence as such. It's spontaneous, and it has certain its own legacy. It's not affected in the sense of geopolitics or even European or American or even Indian or Chinese interest here.
Let's look at this from an economic perspective. This change, the wave of change that just swept in the country, how does that affect economically the country, and how do you see your overall observation of the recent changes there?
I think we have to see it with the transformation of the world economy, because world is also transforming. World scenarios, economic scenario is changing. First of all, it is shifting from US to China or other countries. Recently, I joined a conference in Chengdu, China, the Boao Forum for Asia. And that forum also almost same issues were at the time. That is, the world is changing. It is due to digitalization or introduction of new technology, AI, and other issues also there. Suppose the blue economy is issue, and so many issues are around the world. So the same influence we are observing in Nepalese case, because our youths, our mass population, they are just seeing every day observing the scenario, how it is changing. So almost this change, this shifting, we are mishiring from the world.
Is the lack of access, equal access to economic resources, or lack of opportunities, equal opportunity, is that one of the reasons? Do you see that way?
Yeah, there definitely lack of opportunities also, because some people are getting some resources are concentrated to some persons, that is upper class, and there is a widened gap between rich and poor, and some are haves and other are have-nots. And there are other issues also, suppose corruption and governance issues also.
How do you see it? How is going to impact the economy in the next 5 years, let's say?
Next 5 years, I cannot say, but due to technological transformation, I think it's something changed. It is with this
a positive change, or are we going to say a negative change? That's my concern.
We expect positive change, because as a student of economics, as a teacher of economics, we always expect positive change.
How do you see this affect the governance and public discourse in developing nations like us?
From the side of the government, always trying to do something good, something change, something trying to change. But actual change, people are not they are not experiencing, they are not getting such change. They are always almost the same position that they are in 5 years back or 10 years back. So in their life, almost they are not in a position to feel.
So you mean
change.
there is a huge gap between the people's expectations and the delivery? Right.
Now, this I want to connect the earlier statement of Dr. Baral to Mrs. Baidya. How do you see, as an entrepreneur, how do you see the recent things that has happened here in this country from an entrepreneur's point of view?
Economics is something which really makes the world go round, right? So I think, this is a very positive, positivity is in our human nature. We might go down and up at different times, but in the end, you have to have a positive approach. I would say everything could be taken negatively or positively, but it's up to us. And I think it is the entrepreneurs are generally very, very positive. If something has gone wrong, it has to be fixed. That is the basic nature of entrepreneurship. And from that point of view, I'm very much positive. And I think as a country, we cannot have another outlook other than positivity.
How about the Nepali entrepreneurs, Ms. Vaidya? How quickly are they adapting now, or do you still think they're thinking too locally at the moment?
if we are talking about an individual space, whether somebody is exploring it outside, I'm sure a lot of people want to or would like to, and are maybe also doing already. I think, sometimes I think the laws have been kind of in the way for us to even step outside. But other than that, I think within the landscape, everybody is trying to do their best and perform positively. On a very personal scale, I feel how you run a company is exactly how a country is run. So if you do good, parameters all match up the same, you'll have a positive result. So I can only say I'm highly positive.
We have a seasoned broadcaster with us, a person who started broadcasting way before all these change agents were even born. Mr. Mani Rana, I'd like to come to you. After hearing the discourse of the three guests here, as a broadcaster, how do you assess the things now? The dissemination of the information during the change period in Nepal, how did you see it's happening in a global, broader perspective, not just from Nepal, but from the outer world as well?
I have to make a few comments about how the change has taken place in this country. Change did happen, but we do not know whether the instigators of the change were responsible for it or somebody else was responsible for it. That's number one. Number two, the government has not been doing anything that it should really be doing. Okay? So it's time something happened. Otherwise, the election scheduled for 6 months' time or less than 6 months now is not going to happen. Apart from that, I think there needs to be positivity in thought, as everybody has been saying. We have to be positive. Otherwise, just being negative about everything is not going to work at all. Nor is the fact that if you are too positive, will it work? But I think there is still a lot that needs to be done.
You just said you had a few questions on the change itself, the agents, right? Was there an information gap, a serious information gap during this period in Nepal when the movement took place?
Well, the information gaps always exist in Nepal. Not just in this case, but in every case. I cannot say that there was no information gap. There always is information gap, and nobody expected the Gen Z movement to do what it did. Okay? They haven't got a leadership. Somebody from somewhere has just infiltrated the whole system and done all this. The arson attacks, the destruction of buildings, government buildings. I mean, what was everybody doing? The army went ahead and imposed a curfew the second night or the third night. But before that, I mean, what was it doing? Not even sending fire brigades to places that were being burned down. So everybody is responsible for it. Everybody has to give an answer.
Almost 2 months now, Mr. Rana, still we are searching answers to these questions, right? So there was a serious flaw in the information flow system somewhere.
I don't think the answers will come out clearly even in the next 6 months. So forget about the 2 months that has already gone. So something somewhere is lacking, something somewhere is not being done right, and I personally do not think is going to be done right.
Right, Mr. Rana, as we are talking about this change that we all were part of, or what we witnessed in the recent past, so there's a huge tectonic shift that's undergoing the media landscape as well, not only in Nepal, but it's a global phenomena where traditional arsenals of journalism is being challenged. It's more than gaps. It's, I believe, a lot of noise in the media landscape that's happening. So in this scenario, how you as a very seasoned broadcaster gauge global socio-political dynamics?
I haven't been practicing journalism for a long time now. I took early retirement in 2003, And since then, I have done very, very, very little journalism. What has been happening in Nepal is I have been interviewed by people from the 70s onwards. And every time they ask me about this, I say the media is just going overboard, doing exactly what they want without paying attention to basic facts. The media is not honest at the moment and hasn't been so for the last however many years it's been in existence in Nepal in this shape. In the olden days, there was only Radio Nepal, that's it. If you wanted to listen to any important events, stories of any important events, you listen to Radio Nepal, which gave very little. You listen to the BBC, you listen to All India Radio or other radio stations, okay? Nepal, I think the media became more open and more aggressive, or it has been so for the last maybe 30 years or less. And ever since the beginning, it's been the same. There is no proper decisions made by the media about being straightforward and about the truth and about facts. They just say exactly what they want to say.
Mr. Rana, but the media landscape definitely had changed.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and one aspect we cannot ignore is the audience. What do you say? Are the audience of today more empowered or fragmented?
Well, they're empowered with the wrong information. I mean, the present day media is telling its audience whatever it thinks is correct. It's not just one, it's everybody doing the same. The language they speak is so full of mistakes. The Nepali language I'm talking about. Looking at what I did in London to what I see people in Nepal doing, it's just not comparable.
We are having a special dialogue on a special day, marking the launch of NTV World. Nepal's perspective to the world is our slogan. As Mani Rana just talked about the media, how true they are. They only disseminate what they think is true, not what is the truth. So now this brings us to the second session of the conversation in special dialogue, which will be more about carrying the momentum of the change that we spoke on the first session to the next level now. How is it and will affect us as the people of this country, socially, politically and economically? Again, I'd like to start with Dr. Adhikari. In the long term, how is it going to affect the country, especially in terms of governance?
I think the most important challenge now is to organize the elections on time, and that's very important because this government has not been constituted according to the law of the constitution. So as soon as there is elections, we'll have a legitimate government installed, and then obviously the parliamentary process will begin. That will itself guarantee that we are not deviating from democratic standards. So that election is quite a challenge because there are some forces now coming up who think that this country cannot hold the elections because the peace is not guaranteed here. So I don't understand what does that mean, because this is the election commission in Nepal, which has already in the past held many elections like this, ever since we started with experimenting democracy, and every election was a success. So except the tiny local elections, I think, conducted during the Maoist pressure, under the pressure of Maoist. But this is possible. Now that is quite a challenge. Another challenge is to make sure that the people who get elected are not the same sort of people, because the movements are meant to set the stage for change. And now to bring in changes, you need to get new faces in parliament, and that's possible only when you reform the political parties. The present government can do it, and in fact we have been saying that they should start doing it as soon as possible, because there are at least 4 issues that must be first accomplished. The first one is obviously the democratization of the party machinery. Similarly, there is a need for financial transparency. The country has become corrupt because the parties are corrupt, because corruption, the institution of corruptions, I think they don't exist in the society. Now, if there are islands within our political system which facilitate corruption, is the political parties. So, financial transparency within the political party. How does they make money? Where does the money come from? How do they spend it? And whether the people who are contributing to the political process are the corrupt people or the people like us, the ordinary people who really do it because they think it's a public institution. Similarly, the third issue is inclusion. Inclusion is the constitutional commitment. Now that inclusion has been done to some extent as far as the state is concerned, but the biggest institutions in our society, the public institution are the political parties, and they should be compelled to be to observe the constitutional standards of inclusion, to make sure that the provision of inclusion has been complied by all the political parties. They should not be allowed to contest election. This could be done by reforming the existing laws very positively. And finally, the federalization of the political parties. Now the major issue, as I see constitutionally in this country, is we have a 3-tier federal system in the country, and each tier is autonomous to form the government or introduce the socio-economic programs of their choice in their territory. Now that has no hindrance at all. Now the real issue that we have is the political parties who mobilize this constitutional power locally or provincially are the arms of the high command in Kathmandu. So the parties are still unitary, and they are not federalized. They have seemingly administrative federalization, but not political, because what is most important at present is that each provincial or local chapters of each political party has to be 100% autonomous within the party system, so that the leaders or the high command in Kathmandu cannot dictate the formation of government provincially or locally. Now what happened in Nepal, you can see in most of the places, if there is a change in the federal government, that has impact on
just translates up to the provinces.
Exactly. Without any evaluation of the situation, they just do it because that becomes the grammar of politics. So in order to avoid it, the parties should be federalized in a very autonomous way, so that they are able to give effect to the local mandate. If these 4 things are done before these elections, I am sure all the faces in the parliament will be totally new faces, and they will obviously be accountable faces, because now they are under the control of local people. So this has not happened, and that's the biggest problem now.
As Dr. Adhikari puts up, as I read between the lines, let me pick from the questions on capabilities of our framework and institutions and the gap in between. If I may move to Dr. Baral, are you equally optimistic at the present context, removal of the established forces from the governance? How optimistic are you that this is not going to invite unrest in the future in Nepal?
Okay, just I told you why I am optimistic about the situation, economic situation of the country. Without democratic system, we will track country's transformation is not possible. Economic transformation is positive transformation is not possible. Let's see some economic dimensions of the country. suppose at present, many people, many youths are going abroad for foreign employment, and we are means economy almost it is a remittance based economy. Traditionally we say it is agro based economy, now it is a remittance based economy. Almost 30% of country's GDP means it is based on remittances. Means every month the figure of remittance is rising and rising. And but with this situation, country just it is relying means our banking system, other financial system. It is, and our entrepreneurs also almost it is means they are optimistic. I agree with Bipin sir. First of all, our democratic system, our overall means constitutionally it should be in track. Now it is in almost coma. The election with new faces of the in parliament. And with this situation means all these systems are interconnected.
Dr. Adhikari, is it just a political change? I think the main question and concern of the general public, is it just a political change, or do you see the risks of this fragility transcending into the socio-economic ecosystem of our country?
I think it will be a disaster if this change results into the constitutional change, because that simply means that we will be bogged down in new type of issues which we will not be able to handle so well given our experience in the past. So this is a politically we have the same machinery, but our problem is not the constitution. Our problem is the present leadership, basically the political elite of the country who have been taking the charge since the last 3 decades, but have not been really to bring in meaningful changes in the country. So in democracy, people expect that there is a change in leadership also.
Right. Ms. Vaidya, if I may turn to you, I think you are at the brunt of all these shifts ongoing all around you and even in the global sphere, right? So how do you see Nepal's political institutions and social structures? Are they resilient enough to manage the pressure of globalization and the digitization or digital disruption?
So I think when we start looking and analyzing the situation, because where we sit today and the vulnerability, the instability that we are seeing today, I think like you heard both the experts, a constitutional expert and also at the same time economics expert, we are only the bricks in that whole system. So nobody is insulated from one another. So I think to start off with anything right now on a positive footing, you need the foundation. The foundation is we have a constitution in place. We know it's not the fault of the constitution, it is how we were dealing with the tweaking the rules. And so if we are going to do that, it's we need to recognize the problem areas. So I think we need, on a very personal, institutional, business, security is very, very important. I think we already have talked about it. Mr. Rana also in fact just now said, security I think is a first layer that we all need, whether it's on a personal level or in a business or a country's level. Second thing is we need good governance. We need the good governance, and before we go to the globe and to globalization, let's put our own house in order, is what we need to do right now. So I would think that we need to really have this governance in place at the earliest possible. If I may say that with the Gen Z movement, we've had a deep cleaning happening of the system. It's actually a deep cleaning on a very layman's term. Now how do we put the house back in order is really, really very essential for us to start thinking of anything further. Everybody's still going around their life, about their lives and doing things what they are supposed to, whether it is inside the house, in a business or XYZ might be. But for the stability, economic and social, we need good governance, and the good governance will finally lead to economic betterment, where I think every entrepreneur in this country is waiting to start performing to their fullest. Because if we don't get these breaks of irregular policies, change of policies. We can deal with the COVIDs because that's a natural phenomena. But when our own governance brings up issues like this, it needs very severe
more serious
attention.
than COVID. Okay, Mrs. Baidya, that's an interesting observation of an entrepreneur as well. Now I come to Mani Rana again. At this point, you're pretty critical of the media. That's earlier. Now, at this sort of situation, how should the media be? How it should be? What sort of role, a constructive or more critical? What mode the media should be in at this point of time?
As far as I am concerned, the media in Nepal is going to be doing exactly what it is doing now for the, I don't know how many more years. How long have we been talking about good governance? Has there been good governance? Who's responsible for this? The people who bring these governments
Can
into
we
power.
say to some part media is also responsible for
Absolutely,
this?
absolutely.
So what is the course correction now? How can they correct their course now?
I think the media should now focus on being more truthful to its audience. Okay? Not what they've been doing so far. If they can do that, that would be a great change that would happen in Nepal. Otherwise, we keep talking about good governance, we keep talking about what has been going wrong for all these years, nothing's changing, nothing's being corrected. We are responsible for that because we are the ones who bring in the governments.
What would it take for our media culture to shift from reaction to reflection?
I really don't know because, you see, every part of the media is affiliated to some political party or the other. As long as that is going on, how can you expect change? You cannot. You see, they are always dictated to by the political parties, political leaders. You see? So as long as they keep doing that.
Also, the emergence of digital media landscape had made it more easier for propagandas like that to spread.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's made life easier for people like me as well, because you don't have to turn on the radio or the television set. You just look at the phone and it tells you to some extent. But as I keep saying, the media keeps telling lies all the time.
Well, let's come to the same point, Mr. Rana. It has made your life easier. So that means you definitely do follow the present day new media, digital media. Now, how do you, let's say, take the information? How do you filter it? Let's say, okay, this is the right one I should take, and this is probably a fabricated one, or I should have some doubt.
Okay. It's not just the Nepalese media that
It's the global
does that.
scenario. I'm talking.
Having lived in England for a long time, I'm interested in what is going on there.
Yeah, definitely.
You see, you look at some English or British media, and they keep saying, "Oh, Keir Starmer is going to be over in the next weeks, next few months, or whatever." That I have stopped reading altogether because it's not true. And then all of a sudden, they have news about the king or his family. That is also not true. You learn from.
So is it the source you should really be very much looking into, or the authenticity of the, let's say, disseminator you should be looking into to
Well, what I do, I tell you what I do. If I have not heard the news on television or on radio, I listen to both. I watch TV and I listen to the radio twice a day. Okay? If I haven't listened to it on the news, on radio or television, then I say, okay, this is, that's how I do it.
Right. If I may turn to Ms. Vaidya now, just building on what Mr. Rana just said, I'm sure you also follow news updates and stories all over the world, and you travel, you get to meet people while, doing your business. Do you sometimes feel that Nepali stories lose something when they are told in languages of global trends? Have you ever experienced such instances or reflections, met with such reflections of your own?
Well, I can't pinpoint a single incidence, but elaborating on Mr. Rana's, I would say is that how I would like to read news is that don't read it from only one source. So, when you read it from many sources, you can then read between the lines as what it is said. But actually, like, I can see the grievance that Mr. Rana is coming from is because news reporting should be about what is right. You have to go into the depths of the subject to know what was. But what's happening is, I think we have all started playing to the breaking news, who's first. And I think that's where a lot of times things go wrong. But yes, I think taking it with a pinch of salt, the way to balance is it that maybe, hear it from many sources so that you get to know where it's coming from actually.
That's an interesting point. We would like to hear from two of our other guests as well. How do they consume information at this point of time? Dr. Baral, coming to you, how do you consume information right now, and what are your sources?
In our society, many people getting information from social sites, suppose like Facebook, other social media, which is providing right information and which is providing wrong information, which is misinformation. It's very difficult to identify. Even we intellectual persons, we are intellectual persons, we are misguided with misinformation. Which is right, which is wrong?
Dr. Adhikari, I'm coming to the same question to you. If you have time, when you have to consume information, which is your favorite platform, which is the way you do it?
Most of the time, I'm happy with broadsheets to read most of the morning news, and the rest from different sources. But we can take the 15-minute BBC Nepali service as an example. I mean, it's just 15 minutes, but it's the most independent news outlet in Nepal on Nepalese issues, because when they interview somebody, there is another one to contest it. So similarly, when they read something, they always give both first, second, third perspectives, and they don't end up with abrupt conclusion on things which are very serious. And these are the common sense principles that have not been applied in Nepal. Most of the time, when you select people, for example, you organizing this forum, I mean, you must have considered certain facts before inviting us on board, right? Similarly, but if you are independent, free and impartial, you end up doing things in a very different way. But the same thing, if it is done by another media outlet, in Kathmandu, let's say there are 3, 4, 5 very big media houses, they will obviously first ask that what is your opinion on this particular issue. I mean, there will be a sort of censorship before you are invited. So based on your opinion, you are on board or not.
Right, you all mean
source. Just to confirm you, Dr. Adhikari, we were not influenced by anybody to set up this panel.
I'm sure you have not done. Mostly, whether it is Radio Nepal or NTV or even Gorkha Patra, I think it's a government outlet, but then a government outlet has to balance with the demand of the common people, as well as cater to the needs of the government.
Now we have shifted to public service broadcasting now, so that makes another shift.
The fact remains that you are government funded, and the appropriation bill in Parliament allocates you resources necessary to run your program. So you survive because of independence and impartiality, which the government must also guarantee, because we are in a democracy and this is a public program, and that compulsion is not there for many others. They consider it as a business byproduct, something that that you establish because you have a certain business stake.
Right.
And
so if I may intervene, what I read from the panel is source and selection matters. It really matters.
And also, obviously, I think, if I may add, I think it's what is happening is what I think is a clear voice. What you're seeing is that I think we all acknowledge that a lot of times media is being weaponized, and that is the wrong policy.
That's very true.
This leads me to a very interesting question to Mr. Rana. I'd like to ask you: is present-day media a business or service?
It's obviously business. That's what I think. I may be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I am on the belief that nobody is doing writing news and making television programs. I'm not talking about you. I mean the independent stations. I don't think they're doing it as a public service. They're doing it to make money. Look at how much advertisement commercials there are when you listen to any TV or radio station.
I also have an answer to your question. I think it hardly matters whether it is business or service. The real issue is whether the media persons are professionals or not. I mean, whether they are skilled or not, whether they maintain certain professional standards or not. Do they go by code of conduct? Is there a professional association which really takes charge when the media norms are violated? And finally, the issue is whether the people who are considered incompetent are filtered out in the process, and if there is a scope for it, certainly the question of ownership is not very important.
We are moving on to the next segment now, where we discuss how important is media. Can it do more to institutionalize the changes? I would come to you with the how question, Mr. Rana. How can modern media meet the consumption demand of information that has been extremely accessible, but as we all agree, extremely irresponsible as well?
I don't know how long it's going to take for the media to be responsible, but there is hope. I mean, people are changing, and I think it's very, very important that the media does take that responsibility to heart and be careful about how it goes ahead. It has to go ahead properly and in the right direction. This is something that I've been asked and I've been talking about for the last 30 years or more. And my answer hasn't changed because the situation hasn't changed. You see? But there is still hope, and we can still expect the media to do things better for people like us to be able to be interested in it.
If you were mentoring a young journalist today, Mr. Rana, what would you tell them to focus on?
The truth. Not that I am a perfect person in what I did or I do, but I think if they focus on the truth instead of going around in circles looking at what this one is doing and that one is doing and to get ahead of them, I think if they focus on the truth and facts, it will be much better for them and us.
Vis-a-vis this statement, if we may turn to Dr. Adhikari, what's been your assessment of media in reference to the disseminating of information during the recent Gen Z movement?
I think we have, the whole the environment in Nepal is the people, not just people, but every outlet here. I mean, it's like they have activist, thinking. So you are not noted if you are not activist, if you don't speak aloud, with some harshness, or maybe with certain contempt or aggression in your remarks. So that has been there everywhere, and most of the media people here, I mean, it's a profession of young people. I mean, we have media persons like Mr. Rana, they're very few. You can see that most of them are younger people, especially online, and we still maybe lack enough training, I mean, about capacity as well as the resources at their disposal. But more or less, because we have many outlets, the truth has to come out, and if the readers are smart, obviously they can choose the right information, find right news.
Right, Ms. Ritu Vaidya, if I may ask your insights, I think we all agree that Nepal long has had seized the limelight on issues like social taboos, including Chaupadi and so on, right? Poverty. The focus or the spotlight has mostly been on the grim side. Do you think a shift is needed there, or do you see any needed shift in the media as well?
So I think what I feel is truth, a reconciliation on what is the fact. Even if today, let's say, all this is a venture. News creation is also a venture, but to keep yourself away from commercialization, or in spite of the commercialization, to be able to maintain your own personality, to bring out the truth and to state the facts is something which is expected of media always. Other than that, I think yes, I think you, like I said, I mean media can be of great use, can be weaponized, is a commercial venture in this whole scenario. To bring up very strong issues like what you said, the Chaupadi and all of that, that is a subject which really needs to now be brought out by maybe, let's say, the media. I hope not the Gen Z movement, but you know, I mean, not to the way it happened, because the thing is that, you know, we need to bring it out that is it a hygiene issue or is it a religious issue? It was never a religious issue. It was a hygiene issue, whatever happened in the past. So today, if and today's amenities, with all the amenities that we have available to ourselves, we have to change it. I lend my voice to it. I have said it many times before also, and I think yes, media should definitely get involved in it, because I think it's a huge pain point for all the women in Nepal.
Allow me to ask one question here, Mrs. Vaidya. You said media can be weaponized, right? As an entrepreneur, have you ever weaponized or used media for your interests?
I'm not in the business of media.
No, as an entrepreneur, for your business purpose or motives, have you used media? Or
No, I
do media
wouldn't.
entrepreneurs want to use media for their business purposes?
So I would, you know, see, I think we can see examples everywhere in this very globalized world. We always learn from one another, right? So you see everywhere in the world, you'll see the most prosperous countries to the least developed also, where a lot of times the media houses are controlled or owned or completely funded by a certain XYZ person.
And also the advertisement policy.
Even the advertisement policy, like I said, we live in a very commercialized world, of course. I mean, we are commercializing anything and everything. I think media source of information also has gone into that, because it becomes
So you have not tested the vulnerability of media.
I don't intend to.
We go to Dr. Baral now. Now, economically, we have so many facts and figures in media. What sort of change you want to see from the media when it comes to disseminating information of the economics or the field of finance?
Media persons should understand basic economic information, economic ideas, economic data, what is the meaning of just suppose GDP. And there are so many interpretations of Nepal is in prosperity. Suppose any party in government, they call Nepal is in good position due to these figures, and opposition says Nepal is very bad position because there are so many. So there are so many confusion. So media persons should clearly disseminate what is the reality, and they have to understand the basic ideas. Suppose what is GDP, how to calculate it, what is the figure of remittance figure, what will happen with this remittance. Nepal is in good position or it is in bad position. Some says Nepal is in a very bad position, the remittance goes up, but other figures are very bad. So we have to analyze, we have to change. So I request media persons, you have to know what is the meaning of these figures, how to interpret it. You have to consult with some economic, those who are in economic issues, data analyst or something. So with this proper information, right information, just everything is going.
So you see there's a room for change in there as well. We're having a special dialogue on a special day, on to the fourth and the last final session of this discussion. Now, the theme of the last part is, does Nepal need a global voice? We do have some video statements from some of the recent change makers of Nepal. One is an entrepreneur, an academician who turned his academics interest to a thriving industry that became the first industry run or founded by a Nepali origin person to be enlisted in NASDAQ, the US stock exchange, Fuse Machines, and the other one, a pioneer who in fact engineered the wave of change in this country. There are many, but he's one of them. So let's hear from them first before we enter into the discussion.
A lot of times there's a lot happening in Nepal, like more recent events, but it is not covered in international news and given the same level of depth and information as we would like, especially for Nepali diaspora. They want more information, like more information direct from source and truth and so forth. But a lot of times international news may not cover it. So in those times, having a very authentic voice directly from Nepal is super important, because Nepali diaspora absolutely needs it. The world has changed, right? There's a lot of it digital media, a lot of the news gets consumed in the platforms and so forth. So while there is risk of a lot of misinformation and so forth, having an authentic voice in a digital framework in many of these platforms and outside of these platforms is very important.
I think it is very important for there to be a national media that takes our country's voices internationally. Yes, people in the foreign countries, other countries, I think they do have a different idea about things that have happened in Nepal. So yeah, so because of this misinformation, it is very good that something comes directly out of the source, that being from the national media of the country. I think there needs to be an authentic media, yes, but it has to be pushed through online platforms too. I think digitally going is the way to go for the future. So I think yes, we have to be authentic, yes, and we also have to be focused to broadcast digitally as well.
Namaste and congratulations to all viewers of Nepal Television World Channel, home and abroad. Today is a historic moment. This is the day Nepal starts speaking to the world in its own voice. The NTV World opens a window for global audiences to see Nepal through Nepali eyes, through stories told with understanding and passion. For many years, the world has known Nepal mostly through the eyes of outsiders, the foreigners who climb Everest, who visit Himalayas and other beauty spots. But Nepal is so much more. It's a birthplace of Lord Buddha, a crossroad of cultures, a very young democracy full of energy and ideas that grow in front of our eyes. It's a country facing climate change and devastating disasters, but it's a people who always stand up, always rebuild, always move forward. As a public service broadcaster, Nepal Television has a special mission: to inform, to connect, and to build understanding between its people and with the world. Quality storytelling in English can make Nepal's voice strong, credible, and respected throughout the world. I have worked closely with Nepal Television, and I have seen the incredible talent and passion of its team. They are storytellers who capture the real spirit of Nepal, its warmth, courage, and compassion. So to everyone at NTV World, congratulations. And to NTV World Channel, wishes to become a home of authentic stories, a bridge to global audiences, and a proud symbol of Nepal's voice to the world. Thank you.
So we heard from some of the change makers, the recent change makers that have hit headlines in the country in almost all the media. In this last part of the conversation, which is themed, Does Nepal Need a Global Voice? I start with Mr. Rana. Mr. Rana, has Nepal been seen and heard the way it should have been?
International media talks about a country is like when there's a war, when there's a major accident, and even with accidents, they only care about aircraft mishaps. They don't care about traffic accidents, okay? This is a fact. It's very easy to say, yes, our country needs to be talked about in the international media. Of course it does. But I mean, what are we going to talk about?
My question was, whatever has been heard and seen so far, should it be the same or could it have been different?
I think it's going to remain the same. Because as I just said, I mean, news agencies are only worried or concerned about something like an accident or a war. Okay? Look what happened when the palace massacre happened in Nepal. I mean, the whole world was talking about it. Okay? After a while, it's settled down and finished. Nepal, whether Nepal as a country existed or not, nobody knew. So this is what I mean. I mean, this is going to go on forever. Not just with Nepal, with every country. It's the same thing.
But with Nepal's own voice, will we be able to fill that gap or make a difference?
What are you going to talk about Nepal to make it interesting for an international audience?
Allow me to just show a recent example. For example, there were few foreign medias who recently said the movement, the entire Gen Z movement, was instigated by a Facebook ban, for example. And that was the narrative set almost across the world initially. While the ones who were on the streets themselves were saying, not because it's a Facebook ban, it's because that might have triggered it, but that's not the only agenda. So some sort of false narratives have been set at times by foreign media about our issues. In that void, can we have our own perspective?
Well, you just said it. I mean, the Gen Z movement was something that was interesting to the whole world. That is why there was so much coverage of it. Okay? Now, we're still in trouble.
Yeah.
We still haven't sorted things out here right. We're still in trouble. Nobody's paying attention to it. What are you going to do to emphasize that?
So you mean,
how are you going to do it?
You mean content would be pivotal in determining the success or impact that we would be able to create?
Internationalize the stuff.
Definitely, as you suggested, Mr. Rana, will try to globalize things.
That is it. That's exactly what globalization
maybe
is.
Starting from Nepal issues, and ultimately we'll reach the point that you have said, probably be like that, the foreign outlet. But initially, we're starting with our local voices to the global audience. Now, this is a common question to rest of the guests here. Does Nepal need a global voice?
Nepal should provide information about Nepal's scenario, suppose climate change, its biodiversity, and so many issues we have. So peace loving country we are, and with in global forums, global forums, suppose BOAO, just I talked to you, BOAO, BIMSTEC, in these forums we have to suppose what is ecotourism of Nepal, what is the potentialities of tourism sector. We have to disseminate our ideas, our voices in global forums.
Going to Mrs. Vaidya.
So I think you are talking about like two aspects of the whole of this issue. What you're saying, the globalization of our voice. One is that, do we have content? How do we create the content? Again, it cannot be fabricated content. We need to start strengthening this basic fabric of our society. Education. Today, if I have to think of, while you were asking this question, which is the last news which I thought which was other than film glamour, which keeps coming up so much, whether you put on an Instagram or whatever, a Nobel Peace Prize, somebody who did a great invention, whether we broke the speed of light. Why is this coming to me just now as you were talking about? Because there was an achievement there. That achievement created a content which became worldwide news. One is we make ourselves so strong and have such large achievements that people want to talk about us. The other is whether you mean that, whether how we will take our voice outside to the world is, yes, increase our network of dissemination of information, whether it is Nepal Television, who has offices, let's say, in Doha or in America or whatever. That is a way of taking your daily news there. But if you want attention for the right reasons, we have to strengthen the basic fabric of a society, good governance, strong education, and a whole lot of such gyan.
Over to Dr. Adhikari, your say now.
I think yes. I mean, that's a very fundamental issue for us. We need to have our media presence internationally for two things. Firstly, we need to tell the world who we are. I mean, in terms of our language, our culture, our demography, our economy, international investment, foreign affairs, tourism, so many things. I mean, there are issues that we need to tell the world about, and also to respond to them through an international media outlet which is open 24 hours, and anybody who is interested to come to Nepal or form an impression about Nepal can immediately get back to. So that is the first concern. And secondly, we need to know that we need to make the country visible, because we are a small country. And because we are small, we have to compensate ourselves with things which make us big. And media, certainly, you say Mr. Rana was talking about Al Jazeera. I mean, the value that Al Jazeera created for Qatar is open to everybody. And why we can't do it? In fact, we are on the most majestic part of the world, and whatever we have, is something which many people, many countries don't have at all. So, many people I have seen that they forget, they cannot, remember the word Himalaya, and they start saying Alps. You see, that is the significance, the identity of Nepal. So we have to sell it. Now, being small, we need to, speak aloud. We have geopolitical issues also. You see, the moment we start, for example, when there was, the royal carnage, you see, every country, every media outlet in the world had its own story, because we were not able to tell our story, right? We didn't speak aloud in a language that they can comprehend in. So they started fabricating news, and so assassination became a murder by the crown prince. So to this day, we don't know what happened in fact. I mean, when Premadasa was killed, it became, an assassination. When Ziaul Haq was killed, it became an assassination, right? When Indira Gandhi was killed, you repeated the same word. It's simply because we didn't have our own voice.
Our narratives were being said by the outsiders.
So for the visibility, to speak to the world, we need to have media presence, and I would say not just global, but it should be in the best form possible. And then what Mr. Rana said, maybe we don't have enough staff at present to speak out to the world, but then there are many issues in the world that could be that we can partner with and use the forum for protection of our own interest on international matters. Now that you have started doing it, congratulations. And now when you start doing, obviously this is a process of learning also, we'll get to a point where we can compete with many others. So resource is not a problem, it's the attitude which is a problem, I think.
Fantastic. Thank you so much to all our guests and panelists. Definitely consider this as a move from Public Service Broadcasting Nepal as the first stone, marker stone of what Mr. Rana envisioned. This could be, the potential could be up to that level in future. Thank you so much for your value time, thoughts,
Thank you,
and your perspectives.
I'm sure this is going to extend beyond this dialogue show, the special dialogue session here, as we mark the launch of NTV World tonight, and we made an attempt to offer you different or varying lenses, varying perspectives on the very issue of change that we are living at the moment. And this is happening on the night of the launch of NTV World, which is PSP and Nepal Television's international wing, where we intend to share our very own perspectives on our very own stories and happenings to the globe.
To the audience, stay tuned as NTV World comes to you in all different forms in the digital market as well as the traditional one. Thank you so much for being part of this.
Thank you.